Ah, damn it. Hey, you doing anything important right now? A little. What's up? You know a lot about mushrooms, right?
I'd say so.
And you like playing video games.
Uh-huh.
And you just started that new channel of yours?
What's your point? I have very pressing matters.
You should make a video.
I should make a video about the most popular video game fungi. Moron! Fungi are iconic. Full stop. From the lipstick red of Amanita muscaria to the synonymy of luxury with truffles. Toadstools, tubers, and other mushrooms have been a part of media for as long as media has been around. The Tassili mushroom figure, statues of fungi that span throughout history. Truffles and other mushrooms used culinarily. The Smurfs, Alice in Wonderland. I could go on, but I'm pretty sure you get the point. Examples of mushrooms abound in media, and this continues in video games. My name is Clancy, here at Crater Alias, and today I'll be talking about the most famous fungi in video game history, taking a mycological perspective and rating how accurately the video games portray mushrooms. So, let's get started. The first example of fungi in video game history comes before the Wii, before the N64, and even before the Atari, in arcade cabinets. This is where mushrooms made their first debut in, you guessed it, Centipede. Centipede is a game about trying to shoot a centipede with darts. Mushrooms are obstacles in this game which prevent you from shooting the centipede, alongside a couple other insect enemies. It's a pretty simple game by today's standards. First off, if you were to throw a dart at a mushroom, it would indeed damage it. Shocker. There are 3 side enemies in the game: spiders, fleas, and scorpions. Spiders just try to kill you, but they also clear any mushrooms in their way. In real life, spiders are insectivores, so they don't usually eat mushrooms. Fleas actually create mushrooms. Not really possible to my knowledge. Finally is the scorpion, which moves horizontally in order to poison mushrooms. These poisoned mushrooms change color and also alter the behavior of the centipede. Now, if a mushroom gets changed post-fruiting, it's usually through consumption. Again, scorpions are insectivores and don't eat mushrooms, or through another fungus growing on it, something like a hypomyces or a fungus in the mucormycetes. There are an array of mushrooms present with monochrome stems and caps, with a differently colored border. This is sometimes mirrored in real life. If you take a look at Amanita jacksonii, the orange color fades to yellow near the edges of the cap, but this is usually limited to the cap, or at the very most from the base of the stem upwards, causing more of a gradient than an actual border. The colors itself isn't unrealistic. Bright green, blue, purple, all the colors of the rainbow, and a couple extras are present in fungi, and it's this juxtaposition between the main tissue and the border that makes it hard to find real-life corollaries. If there are any that scratch the surface of realism, it would be the ones that have 2 similar colors that would be the most realistic. Here were the only ones I could find. The in-game mushrooms also spawn very quickly, like literally instantly, upon either a new round or when you kill a part of the centipede. Now there are some fungi that are fast, like 12 hours to 24 hours fast, but nothing the speed of the stuff you see in-game. So overall, we'll give Centipede a 1 out of 5 for realism. Now is probably a good time to say, these ratings aren't reflective of how good a game is. Just because it's a 1 out of 5 doesn't mean it's a terrible game, nor if it's a 5 out of 5 that it's a great game. So, food for thought. Next up, we have the classic, the GOAT, Mario helped push the medium of video games into the mainstream. Coupled with the release of the NES, the Super Mario Bros. Helped make Nintendo and really all of video gaming what it is today. But let's talk about the fungi. The magic mushroom, yes, that was its name on release, was changed in later iterations to the super mushroom that we now know and love. It's widely accepted that this fungus is based off of Amanita muscaria. It was nearly confirmed by Shigeru Miyamoto in a 2005 interview with Businessweek, where he referenced Alice in Wonderland, where Amanita is portrayed as having magical, size-altering properties. While I agree and can accept this one looks like Amanita muscaria, there's no way this one was. The tan color with red spots doesn't remind me of an Amanita, as their warts are nearly always white, or at very most, off-white to tan. What this does remind me of is Hidden Pecii, the bleeding tooth fungus. This guy has a white surface that browns in age and produces red droplets of liquid called guttation. Mycologist Matt Kaysen explains in a PopSci.com interview, these often pigmented drops, seen on fungal fruiting bodies and in culture, contain various dissolved substances and bioactive molecules. Later iterations of the original magic mushroom turned into the mega mushroom, which clarified that these are not liquid drops, rather spots. Rest in peace, H. peckii theory. Another fungus introduced in the original game was the one-up mushroom. Same as the super mushroom, having a roughly amanita shape. The closest approximations I could find were citrina or phalloides, but nothing as strikingly green as the one-up mushroom. The fungal power-ups were accompanied by a fungal foe in the form of the Goombas and a fungal friend in the form of the toads. The former was confirmed by Takashi Tezuka in a Wii.com interview to be shiitake, let to new let you do days. Toad seems more closely related to the power-up mushrooms than the Goombas. I thought these things were hats, but apparently they're not? Again, even apart from the being alive thing, the cap doesn't really resemble any fungus other than the general agaric shape. Now, I probably don't need to tell you that walking mushrooms or mushrooms that make you change size are unrealistic, but compared to modern Mario, this older version had the upper hand. Super Mario Galaxy had the bee mushroom, Super Mario Wonder added the drill mushroom, there are flying Goombas, Galoombas, blue, gray, green, and pink varieties, whatever the hell happened in the live-action Mario movie. But one more thing you might not have known is that these bricks may be partially made of fungi. In the original Super Mario Bros. Handbook, it states, if you come across mushrooms who have been turned into bricks or made invisible, they reward you by giving you a power boost. Now, it's said to have been Bowser's magic which turned the mushroom people into these bricks, but it's contested whether it's all the bricks, just the ones with power-ups, or if this whole thing has been retconned because it was the first game. Regardless, mushroom bricks are something of a reality. Mushrooms can be grown into specific shapes for packaging, Dell and IKEA do this, or just into bricks to be used similarly to their clay counterparts. But now we spent too much time with Mario, and I've only covered the basics. If we went over every single fungus in the Mario games, I'd be repeating myself. We'll give Mario a 0.5 out of 5 for realism, but a 6 out of 5 for being the quintessential fungal icon.
Huh?
Next up is the best-selling video game of all time, Minecraft. Now, I could just focus on the soil, the podzol, the mycelium, and other stuff, but it'd be a lot of actuallying, so I'll stick to the fungi themselves. The 4 mushrooms found in-game are interesting for different reasons. The two in the overworld were confirmed in 2020 by Jeb to be Amanita muscaria, the fly agaric, and Belize edulis, also known as cheps, penny buns, king boletes, or porcini. The former, as we've already mentioned, is the archetypal fungus, but the latter holds similar prestige for its culinary value. Amanita muscaria is technically edible, though it's not recommended given the presence of psychedelic compounds and toxins. It's been used in alternative medicine and in Siberian shaman rituals throughout history in ways that I don't really want to detail here because they're gross. Minecraft uses both of these fungi in an array of stews, which you could technically make in real life, though I wouldn't recommend it. Especially suspicious stew. Ugh. Porcini and the fly agaric are ectomycorrhizal, meaning they need a tree host in order to gain their nutrients. This is only sometimes seen in Minecraft. Both of these fungi are able to associate with spruce, thus its presence in old-growth taiga is realistic. Everywhere else is iffy. The nether and mushroom fields have no trees, and while swamp biomes have trees, they have so much water that this would usually inhibit fungal growth, since you're basically drowning the fungus. For us OG Minecraft players, you may also remember mushrooms spawning in caves, but I am not joking, I spent 30 minutes flying around in spectator mode trying to find a damn mushroom before I turned to the wiki. 1.18, mushrooms can no longer generate underground, damn it. On a positive note, that bodes well for realism. But now we must come to a very interesting point, the giant mushrooms. Believe it or not, at one point in history there were giant mushrooms, but they looked more like this than this. More of a Christmas tree shape. These fungi were observed before the evolution of the mycorrhizal symbiosis, meaning they were likely saprotrophic, feeding on dead organic matter. Combine the gigantism with the saprotrophic nature, and it can lead you to my personal headcanon. There are species within Amanita and Boletus which are saprotrophic. These Minecraft species could be selectively pressured strains that can now degrade organic matter alongside their ectomycorrhizal ability. This would also explain quite a bit. Why they can grow on logs in Bedrock Edition, in mushroom fields without trees, in the Nether where netherrack is some sort of combination between stone, dirt, and other organic matter. This also explains the giant mushrooms, which can only spawn in places where there are excess organic matter. Dark oak forests, via the player applying bone meal, or in the mushroom fields. My explanation for this is that the energy that's used to create mobs is somehow funneled into the mycelium, hence, no mob spawns. I'm sure this wasn't something the developers intended, and it does leave a couple of holes, the swamps, the instant growth into the larger forms, but it's my personal headcanon, and it should be yours too. Unfortunately, the Nether update ruined this potential realism. The introduction of crimson and warped fungi are more abstract, not exactly matching anything you'd see in real life. The closest thing we get to realism in the Nether mushrooms are that you can breed hoglins with them. In real life, pigs can use mushrooms as a food source, and female pigs in particular are attracted to truffles, which smell similarly to male pheromones. Furthermore, these fungi produce wood. And I know they're called stems, but they're treated like wood in every other regard in the game. Wood is not replicated by anything other than trees. Even plants like bamboo, which have lignin, aren't really considered to be wood by most. The warped and crimson stems are harder to claim evolution on, especially because they don't have a real-life corollary like Boletus edulis or Amanita muscaria. Same with the shroomlights. If a mushroom glows, which they can do, they grow a specific color and only at certain times of the day when it's very dark. So the nether fungi are unrealistic, but I still like them because they make my Minecraft bases look sick and epic. Another thing is the longevity of these fungi. If you place a mushroom on the ground, in a pot, or just a mushroom block, they stay forever. Now, in real life, these soft-tissued fungi are quickly degraded by bacteria, other fungi, and insects. You might think we're done, but we have one more secret fungi-adjacent block, the glow lichen. Lichens are super cool. So cool that I'm going to save them for another video. The short and sweet of it is that a cyanobacterium, or an algae, gets captured by a fungus and is forced to make energy through photosynthesis. Photosynthesis, obviously with the Latin prefix photo, meaning light. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in a cave, but yeah, no sunlight. Believe it or not, lichens can glow. Not the dull green we see in game, and not without light, but under UV and some spectacular shades of yellow, orange, and purple. These little spots here also remind me of apothecia, which is a real structure, but the whole middle of a cave, no light thing is no bueno para el realismo. To tie it all together, pre-Nether update, this would have been a 4 out of 5, a surprisingly strong score that is weakened by the addition of the Nether fungi and the glow lichen. So unfortunately, I'll have to give Minecraft a 3 out of 5 for realism. The Last of Us. What can I say about this game that hasn't already been said 1,000 times? A compelling story, interesting characters that you root for and sympathize with, an artful mix of stealth and shooter gameplay, fantastic art design incorporating elements of the post-apocalyptic world with the nature that ends up taking over. Oh, also fungi. The Last of Us' central creature feature is cordyceps, the causative agent of the illness seen in the games. Cordyceps is a real genus of fungus that targets insects and other arthropods. They're considered to be zombie fungi, but the name is a bit of a misnomer. Eloquently stated by mycologist David Hibbett.
I think it's a misuse of the word zombie.
They're not dead, so they're not zombies. The infection process ends with death. It doesn't start with it. This fungus takes a multitude of forms in the games. Both zygomycetious and slime mold growth forms are observed in the introduction, but it's unclear if this is supposed to be representative of cordyceps or just some admittedly pretty cool imagery. Further in the game, cordyceps has a gilled, shelf-like fungus form on the clickers, a club and coral-like growth on the stalkers, zones with heavy spore density. Now I don't know if you see the problem here, but this is too many things. There are some fungi which present in multiple forms. Rusts can have up to 5 distinct spore stages, and while some of these look alike, some look completely different. Even those with only 2 spore stages can look wildly different from each other. Cedar apple rust on an apple tree looks like your standard rust, but on a cedar tree looks like a sweet potato got freaky with an octopus. There is a split in many fungi where both sexual and asexual structures are produced. This is true for cordyceps. The sexual telomorph is where ascospores are produced, whereas the asexual anamorph are where conidiospores are produced. While this one requires more energy and this one can produce more spores, neither effect precludes infection, of which both forms are capable of. However, cordyceps is more than its namesake. Let's take a deep dive into the fungi which make up the cordyceps in The Last of Us, going through each individual organism which make up the final fungus. If you weren't expecting cordyceps at the top of the list, I don't really know what to tell you. But enough about cordyceps, there's plenty of great videos about the zombie fungi already. Back to the initial outbreak. Ergot is perhaps the most famous of wheat diseases, given its striking appearance and mind-altering effects once ingested. Claviceps is the genus of plant pathogens which infects the florets of grasses, inducing ergot. This includes cereal grains like wheat, barley, and rye. They develop into these large black structures known as sclerotia. These are overwintering structures which, once conditions are optimal, germinate into little lollipops of weedy doom. Ergot sclerotia can and has made its way into the mills, going unrecognized by large machinery or by harvesters who are too inexperienced or too hungry to care. Ergot, when milled, turns into a black to red powder, which is easily spotted against today's whole white flours, but is not so easily spotted against whole grain flours or differently colored grains. Such dark camouflage allowed the last large ergot outbreak in 2001, where ergot infected wild oats contaminated barley. In The Last of Us, it's said that these spores made their way into food through contaminated grain, but spores die pretty easily for the average fungus. The boiling point is too much for most spores, let alone the heat of the oven or the acids in our stomach. See autobrewery syndrome for the exception. Given the steps we take in labs, for God's sakes, this thing is 2 safety measures short of a bomb, you might not believe that some spores are okay. But whereas here we need 0 live spores, here there is an acceptable lower limit. Want to learn how to eat molds? Check out there! What we need to worry about are the toxins. Ergot sclerotia are filled with nutrients and progeny, so the ergot takes steps to protect them. In come toxins, namely alkaloids. Ergot alkaloids are indole-based, which is super convenient because plants rely on a hormone called auxin, also known as indole acetic acid. Now, ergot alkaloids are nothing compared to some other alkaloids. You ever heard of a little plant called hemlock? But ergot alkaloids have their own special little way of fucking you up. You ever heard of the chemical lysergic acid, LSD? Eating ergot causes ergotism. Alongside hallucinogenic effects, you can expect paranoia, convulsions, and swelling of the limbs, ending in gangrene. This last symptom is actually somewhat reflected in the games, in the bloaters. One could argue that the hallucinogenic state could translate to violence seen in early stages of the cordyceps infection, but I'm not there, so make your own conclusion. The violent nature of those infected with cordyceps is most similar to rabies. And I know rabies isn't a fungus or even an organism at all, but didn't you see the asterisk back there? Humans are likely a dead-end host for rabies, but we haven't confirmed this because no one's volunteered yet. I'm just kidding, no ERB would let that happen. The method of biting is how cordyceps spreads in game, much like rabies does in real life. Both act on the nervous system, causing damage, and eventually the altered mental states we see in later portions of the infection. Whereas rabies just makes you dead, cordyceps makes you dead with extra steps. Certain areas in The Last of Us require the use of a gas mask due to high spore density. Little known fact, they actually base these areas off of the apartment my ex-wife lives in. Now, having such a plurality of spores is not common. Even if you found a place like this, say a basement or after flooding, the threat of mold spores is more akin to that of dust. That is, unless you're allergic, then spores can cause mild to severe allergic reactions. The exception for us not allergic is Stachybotrys. Plus a couple other ones, but Stachybotrys is the way. Known colloquially as black mold, Stachybotrys chartarum is able to grow on highly minimal media. A puddle in a dark room is heaven to this fungus. As a mold, it will produce spores alongside hyphae, giving a way to spread faster, farther. This is especially a concern after flooding. While not all Stachybotrys produces toxins, the ones that do are a major health concern even to those without allergies. It's pretty mild compared to the stuff you see in The Last of Us, but it can contribute to sick building syndrome, causing symptoms such as headaches, irritation, and a whole host of nondescript symptoms. Large clouds of spores are, again, seldom seen at this level, but when they are, you're more likely to have a cough than get infected, or become a zombie.
Wow!
Shelf fungi is a general term to refer to things that look like this, and slime molds are amoeba, usually. The only common factor you have between these two and cordyceps is their shape. Neither are particularly pathogenic unless you're dead wood. So given all this, how realistic are the fungi in The Last of Us? Well, when we break it down like this, we can see individual parts are grounded in reality. Creative liberties had to be taken. And while the final fungus isn't like any single fungus, it sure makes for a powerful narrative tool that fills the niches of a zombie video game, without being overly hand-wavy or complicated. Despite the fact that this will never be possible, I'm giving The Last of Us a 4 out of 5 for realism, for crafting a believable post-apocalyptic environment, given the truths it draws on for the cordyceps disease. So what does this all mean? What's the moral of the story? Well, unfortunately, the moral of the story is that I'm a big nerd. But, fortunately, now you know more about fungi. I scratched the surface of a lot of concepts here, so if you're interested in any specific one or want more elaboration, I'd be happy to help you down in the comments. Likewise, if there's any other games you want me to check out, let me know below. I keep promising myself to make shorter videos, so I had to cut out a lot of video games I wanted to talk about. Pokemon, Hollow Knight, Among Us, Spore Wars, Terraria, Binding of Isaac, and the newly released Avowed. So while you're down there, actually, since you're already down there, right? Leave a like and subscribe. Pretty please. I appreciate it. Thank you again for watching. Take care.